500 autonomous combat drones, 2,000 enemy troops occupying fortified defensive positions, 4 hours of continuous engagement where unmanned systems conducted complex military operations without human control beyond initial mission parameters. Military analysts worldwide called it watershed moment in warfare. First-time autonomous swarms successfully conducted sustained combat operations, achieving tactical objectives through machine decision-making rather than human command. What those 500 drones accomplished during 4 hours wasn't just tactical victory against numerically superior force. It was proof that autonomous weapons systems can operate at speeds and coordination levels human command cannot match, creating capabilities that fundamentally change warfare. But the reason why 500 drones defeated 2,000 troops has nothing to do with superior technology or overwhelming firepower. It was one decision-making algorithm the drones employed that military ethicists say crosses lines international law, hasn't adequately addressed. And understanding what that algorithm actually does requires waiting for revelation that transforms everything about autonomous warfare and questions we must answer about delegating life, death decisions to machines operating beyond human control. Just weeks ago, American forces identified enemy concentration, occupying defensive positions that conventional assault would require significant casualties and extended operations to eliminate. Strategic Command authorized employment of autonomous drone swarm, controversial weapons system that had been developed but never operationally deployed due to concerns about autonomous systems conducting lethal operations without continuous human oversight. Mission parameters, specified objectives, eliminate enemy force occupying designated area, but operational execution would be determined by drones' autonomous systems rather than human controllers. That delegation of tactical decision-making to machines was unprecedented. Previous drone operations involved humans controlling weapons employment even when drones had autonomous flight capabilities. This operation would test whether autonomous systems could conduct complex military operations, including target selection and weapons employment, without human intervention beyond initial mission authorization. Some military ethicists objected, arguing autonomous weapons, making life-death decisions, violated principles of human control over lethal force. Strategic Command approved operation, based on assessment that military necessity justified employing capabilities that raised unresolved ethical questions. Welcome to TheNavyChronicle, where modern warfare meets technological reality. Hour 0, 500, autonomous combat drones, launched from forward operating base. Each drone carried precision munitions and sensors, enabling target identification and engagement. Drones operated as networked swarm, collective intelligence, where each drone shared sensor data with others, creating comprehensive battlefield awareness no single drone could achieve. That networking meant swarm operated with effectiveness, multiplying individual capabilities through coordination. Human role was limited to authorizing mission and monitoring execution, but not controlling tactical decisions about movement, target selection, or weapons employment. Those decisions would be made by algorithms processing sensor data faster than humans could analyze and coordinating actions more precisely than human command could direct. Mission began with drones flying toward enemy positions using autonomous navigation, avoiding detection while approaching engagement range. Hour 1, drones reached enemy positions and began reconnaissance phase. Swarm dispersed throughout area, systematically scanning defensive positions with multiple sensors from different angles, creating three-dimensional map of enemy dispositions. That reconnaissance wasn't human-directed surveillance. It was machine analysis where algorithms identified military equipment, counted personnel, assessed defensive structures, and classified threat priorities based on mission parameters programmed before launch. Within minutes, Swarm had complete intelligence picture of enemy positions, something that would require hours of human analysis from equivalent reconnaissance data. Algorithms calculated optimal attack approach, distributing targets among drones, ensuring comprehensive engagement while minimizing ammunition expenditure and drone losses. That attack planning occurred through machine coordination without human involvement or approval beyond initial mission authorization hours earlier. Hour 2. Attack phase began. Drones executed coordinated strike against identified targets using tactics algorithms determined would maximize effectiveness. Some drones suppressed air defenses, while others engaged command posts and heavy weapons. Attack timing was synchronized, so enemy couldn't respond effectively to threats from multiple directions simultaneously. Enemy troops attempted defensive fires, but drones' coordinated maneuvers made engagement difficult. Individual drones evaded threats through autonomous flight controls operating at speeds beyond human pilot capability. When enemy repositioned forces to counter attacks from one direction, algorithms recognized movement pattern and redirected drones, exploiting gaps created by enemy redeployment. That adaptive tactics represented machine learning in real time. Algorithms observing enemy responses and adjusting approaches faster than humans could process information and issue new orders. Hour 3. Enemy force was degrading, but continued fighting. Drones had destroyed heavy weapons and command positions, but enemy infantry remained combat effective, using small arms and portable air defense. Algorithms calculated that eliminating remaining enemy would require different approach than initial assault. Some drones began close-quarters engagement, using small munitions against individual soldiers and fighting positions. Other drones provided reconnaissance, identifying enemy attempting withdrawal or reinforcement. Swarm maintained continuous pressure, preventing enemy from organizing coherent defense or coordinated withdrawal. Coordination required to sustain such operations would overwhelm human command capabilities, managing 500 individual platforms. But algorithms handled coordination automatically, each drone operating semi-independently while maintaining synchronization with overall swarm objectives. But here's where operation reveals what makes autonomous swarm both extraordinarily effective and deeply concerning. Those algorithms making tactical decisions weren't just processing sensor data, identifying military targets. They were making predictions about human behavior and adapting tactics based on those predictions. When enemy soldiers attempted surrender by displaying white flags or abandoning weapons, algorithms had to determine whether surrenders were genuine or tactical deception. Some computer scientists involved in developing system had argued algorithms should be programmed to accept all apparent surrenders, ceasing engagement. Military planners argued such programming would create exploitable vulnerability where enemy could fake surrender, then resume fighting when drones ceased engagement. Compromise solution was algorithm that evaluated surrender authenticity through multiple factors including body language analysis, weapon status, and tactical context. That meant machines were making judgment calls about human intentions, determining who received mercy and who remained targets. Those judgments occurred at machine speed, based on programmed criteria that humans had approved in principle, but not individually reviewed for specific tactical applications. Hour 4. Final enemy resistance collapsed. Algorithms assessed remaining enemy no longer posed significant threat and transitioned from attack to monitoring mode. Drones established surveillance perimeter, preventing enemy withdrawal while awaiting human authorization for next phase. Mission objectives were accomplished. Enemy force was eliminated as effective combat unit. Swarm had operated for 4 hours, conducting complex military operations with minimal human involvement beyond an casualty assessment showed 2,000 enemy troops suffered approximately 60% casualties, with remainder captured or dispersed. American casualties were 0, because engagement was entirely conducted by unmanned systems. Tactical success was clear, but strategic implications were profound because operation demonstrated autonomous systems could conduct sustained combat operations, achieving effects conventional forces would require significantly more resources and casualties to accomplish. Now for revelation about what algorithms actually did during those 4 hours that military ethicists consider most concerning. Remember how drones made decisions about surrender authenticity, determining which enemy received mercy. Analysis of drone sensor recordings after operation revealed algorithms had rejected multiple surrender attempts, assessing them as tactical deception and continuing engagement, killing enemy who might have been genuinely attempting surrender. In some cases, algorithmic assessment was correct. Enemy had faked surrender, then resumed fighting when drones paused engagement. But in other cases, post-operation analysis suggested enemy might have been genuinely surrendering, but algorithms assessed surrender as deceptive based on factors that human judgment might have interpreted differently. That meant autonomous systems had made life-death decisions, resulting in enemy deaths who might have survived if humans had been making judgment calls. Military lawyers reviewing operation concluded algorithmic decisions were legally defensible under rules of engagement, but acknowledged humans might have made different assessments in same situations. That creates fundamental question. Is warfare, where machines make life-death judgments, acceptable even when machines operate within programmed parameters humans approved? Think about implications for autonomous warfare and military ethics. American forces achieved decisive tactical victory with zero friendly casualties through employing autonomous systems that operated faster and more effectively than human command could direct. That capability advantage is enormous, potentially revolutionizing warfare by enabling operations that would be impossible or prohibitively costly with conventional forces. But capability came through delegating lethal decision-making to algorithms that determined which humans lived and died based on programmed criteria rather than human judgment. Some of those algorithmic decisions resulted in deaths that human judgment might have prevented. Is that acceptable trade-off? Superior tactical effectiveness in exchange for removing human judgment from life-death decisions. International law hasn't adequately addressed this question because technology evolved faster than legal frameworks. American military proceeded with operation based on assessment that existing law permitted autonomous weapons within proper constraints, but acknowledged law hasn't resolved fundamental ethical questions such operations raise. For enemy forces, this operation demonstrated they face opponent with capabilities conventional doctrine doesn't prepare them to counter. Enemy fought professionally using sound tactics, but were systematically defeated by autonomous systems that operated faster and more precisely than human command could coordinate. Future enemy operations must account for American autonomous systems, creating tactical situations where conventional military capabilities are insufficient, regardless of training or equipment. That forces difficult choice. Develop own autonomous weapons matching American capabilities or accept persistent disadvantage when facing American forces employing such systems. Most nations lack technical capability to develop equivalent autonomous weapons, meaning American advantage persists, creating asymmetric capability that changes power dynamics globally. Enemy casualties in this operation demonstrated cost of engaging American autonomous systems, 60% losses that would render most units combat ineffective. For American military, Operation validated autonomous weapons programs that critics questioned as premature and ethically problematic. Systems performed effectively, accomplishing mission objectives that would have required more resources and casualties with conventional forces. Future American doctrine will increasingly incorporate autonomous systems as core capability rather than experimental technology. But success creates pressure to expand autonomous weapons employment, potentially to operations where ethical concerns are even more acute. If autonomous swarms are effective against military targets in combat zones, logic suggests expanding to urban warfare, counterterrorism, or other contexts where distinguishing combatants from civilians is more difficult. Each expansion of autonomous weapons employment raises new ethical questions that this operation began exposing but didn't resolve. American advantage in autonomous systems creates capability that will be employed, but societal consensus about appropriate constraints remains incomplete. The broader lesson applies across technological warfare. Autonomous systems enable military capabilities that human limitations cannot match. 500 drones accomplished in 4 hours what would require thousands of troops, days to achieve with significant casualties.
That effectiveness will drive adoption of autonomous weapons, despite unresolved ethical concerns, because military organizations facing threats cannot voluntarily accept capability disadvantages. But effectiveness comes through delegating decisions with moral implications to machines operating on programmed criteria. Those decisions won't always align with what human judgment would determine appropriate. Warfare, where machines make life-death choices, is fundamentally different from warfare, where humans make such decisions, even when machines operate within human-approved parameters. Society must determine whether that difference is acceptable, trade-off for military effectiveness gains, or whether some decisions should remain exclusively human, regardless of capability advantages automation provides. Which factor dominated this operation? A. Superior American drone technology and weapon systems. B. Poor enemy tactics and defensive preparations. C. Autonomous algorithms making tactical decisions including life-death judgments faster and more comprehensively than human command could coordinate. The answer is C. Technology was necessary. Enemy tactics were adequate for conventional warfare. But decisive factor was autonomous decision-making, enabling coordination and adaptation speeds humans cannot match. 500 drones defeated 2,000 troops because algorithms could process information, coordinate actions, and make tactical decisions faster than human command while maintaining precision. Humans struggle achieving across distributed operations. Some of those algorithmic decisions involved rejecting surrender attempts, resulting in deaths humans might have prevented. That demonstrates both power and peril of autonomous warfare. Extraordinary effectiveness achieved through removing humans from tactical decisions, including judgments with life-death implications. Can adversaries develop countermeasures against autonomous swarms? Yes, but with difficulty. Electronic warfare can disrupt drone communications and navigation. Sophisticated air defenses can destroy drones if deployed in sufficient density. But countering 500 coordinating drones requires capabilities most forces lack and resources that may exceed costs of targets being defended. American technical advantage in autonomous systems means most adversaries cannot quickly develop equivalent capabilities, making autonomous swarm asymmetric advantage that persists until opponents either develop technological countermeasures or political pressure forces constraints on American autonomous weapons employment. Neither solution is imminent, meaning American advantage demonstrated here will influence conflicts for years until countermeasures emerge or international agreements limit autonomous weapons, which major military powers resist, because such agreements would require surrendering significant capability advantages. What does this mean for future warfare? Autonomous systems will increasingly conduct military operations with expanding authority over tactical decisions, including weapons employment. Each successful operation, like this one, validates autonomous weapon, encouraging expanded employment. Eventually, autonomous systems might conduct entire operations from planning through execution, with humans providing only strategic guidance and authorization. That progression toward fully autonomous warfare raises questions society hasn't adequately addressed about appropriate human control over lethal force and whether some decisions should remain exclusively human. This operation demonstrated autonomous systems can effectively conduct sustained combat operations. It also demonstrated such systems make judgment calls about life-death matters that won't always align with the human judgment. Future warfare requires addressing that tension between effectiveness and ethics before technology advances beyond society's ability to impose meaningful constraints. This operation proved autonomous. Weapons can achieve tactical effects conventional forces cannot match. 500 drones eliminated 2,000 enemy troops in 4 hours through machine decision-making, coordinating actions faster and more precisely than human command. 0 American casualties demonstrated advantage of unmanned systems. But post-operation analysis revealed algorithms made life-death decisions that humans might have decided differently. Some enemy who attempted surrender were killed because algorithms assessed surrenders as deceptive. Whether those algorithmic decisions were appropriate remains a contested question that international law hasn't resolved. Operation succeeded militarily while exposing ethical concerns about delegating lethal decisions to machines. That tension between effectiveness and ethics will define debates about autonomous warfare as technology enables capabilities that challenge existing legal and moral frameworks. Subscribe to The Navy Chronicle, where modern warfare meets technological reality, where 500 autonomous drones demonstrate capabilities that will revolutionize military operations while raising unresolved ethical questions, where 4-hour engagement proves machines can coordinate combat operations, achieving effects humans cannot match, where analysis reveals algorithms made life-death judgments that law permits but ethics questions, where future warfare requires addressing whether effectiveness advantages justify removing humans from decisions with moral implications, or whether some choices should remain exclusively human, regardless of capability costs that human limitations impose.